Yeah, it's time. By default, we're already aligned with hell. We're going to go over the book of Isaiah. A little pre context. The book of Isaiah was written roughly 700, 730 ish in that timeline BC. It was a span over about 50 years across over four different kings. So it wasn't completely linear. But to us at present time, it looks like a very linear composition. Cool. Take a look at it. Chapter 1. The vision of Isaiah the son of Amoz, which he saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah. Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for the Lord has spoken. I have nourished and brought up children, and they have rebelled against me. The ox knows his owner, and the donkey his master's crib. But Israel did not know. My people do not consider. A sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, a seed of evildoers, children that are corrupters. They have forsaken the Lord. They have provoked the Holy One of Israel into anger. They are gone away backward. Why should you be stricken any more? Why should you hold yourself back? You're trying to act obedient. You know, you will revolt more and more. The whole head is sick and the whole heart faint. So we're going to jump over to verse 9. Except the Lord of hosts has left us a very small remnant. We should have been as Sodom and Gomorrah. Been as Sodom, and we should have been like unto Gomorrah. So this right here is telling us right now that pre-Israeli camp, the Israelites being in a camp, God did things to certain nations and certain cities that were just aggressively unrighteous. Um, and he references them directly with Sodom and Gomorrah, just to let you know, hey, I'll take it there. We can take it there. Tighten up. Verse 11, to what purpose is the multitude of your sacrifices unto me? Saith the Lord, I am full of the burnt offerings, of rams, of the fat of fed beasts, and I delight not in the blood of bullocks, or of the lamb, or of the he goats. He's saying right there, you guys, I've given you an outlet to sacrifice for your sins, blood atonements for your sins, but you removed your heart from it. You do these, you pretty much do whatever you want, and when it's time to sacrifice, you come do it. You're not fixing your problem. You are your own problem. You're not fixing the problem. You're not addressing it. In fact, you're adding to it. Sin is sin, the act of missing the mark. Iniquity is the building of sin, is the rolling over of sin. It is the agriculture of sin, iniquity. Verse 12, when you come to appear before me, who has required this at your hand to tread my courts? So he's saying, when you bring these sacrifices, or even when you approach me in any capacity that I've allowed you to up to this point, who asked for you to come here? Who you need to come correct if you're going to come at all. Jump down, verse 13. Bring no more vain oblations. Incense is an abomination to me. The new moons and Sabbaths, the calling of assemblies, I cannot away with it. It is iniquity, even a solemn meeting. Y'all having a good time. Y'all having a good old time. At my expense, at the expense of my glory. Y'all up here bathing in your own filth, bathing in your own mess, doing these rituals, doing these sacrifices, doing these feasts, doing all these little itty bitty things, but you don't even have your heart in to grow with God, who even put you in place to have these things. You're messing up. Tighten up. Let's all tighten up. And when you spread forth your hands, I will hide my eyes from you. Yea, when you make many prayers, I will not hear. Your hands are full of blood. Wash you, make you clean. Put away the evil of your doings from before my eyes. Cease to do evil. It's such a blanket request. Just saying, be good. Act like you got some sense. Spiritually, act like you got some sense. Please. Learn to do well, seek judgment, relieve the oppressed, judge the fatherless, plead for the widow. And not just reach this point where you're this self righteous person. You gotta have a heart. Help other people out. Be charitable to others because not other people have it all together. It's not just about you. He's saying, look out, once you get yourself in order, you need to help somebody else out because not everybody else has it in order. There's work to be done. Now, at this point, he's saying what you've done, what you presented to me, it's not going to work your way. Because God is saying it's making me angry. You doing it your way is going to be a byproduct of your own selfish desires. It's going to conduce me to anger. It's going to infuriate me because it's not the right way. And all I want you to do is follow the right way. And it'll bring me glory because I got you here. I'm the reason that you're here. And after I finish this, I'm going to break this down. We're going to take off. Verse 18, come now, let us reason together, said the Lord. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they shall be as wool. Okay. Verse 19, if ye be willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land. But if you refuse and rebel, you shall be devoured with the sword. For the mouth of the Lord has spoken it. Think about it. Break it down. Who is he even talking to? Well, he's talking to the Israelites. Now, at this point, Israel divided, post Solomon, it divided into, it's an entire nation, it's an entire bloodline, set of people, but it's just split off in half. We have the northern part that's more of Israel, then we have the bottom part that's in Judah. This is in Judah, but it's concerning the entire body of Israel. So let's not let that confuse us. And it's actually noted several times when Judah's mentioned, Israel's likely mentioned. When Israel's mentioned, Judah as a sister is mentioned. This whole thesis is saying you need to be holy. And we get so wrapped up in like what holy means or what we think holy means. It's a really simple term. Sodom and Gomorrah, we would call that unholy. And the aim is to be holy. Well, in its most simplest terms, holy means to be uncommon. Uncommon to the common practices of the world, uncommon to the common carnal desires of the world, the impulses of the world, living a life that's pretty common, whether it be idolatry, praying to the rings on your finger, praying to the rocks in your hand or in your collection, praying to created things, things that cannot hear you, things that cannot save you, embarking in lustful desires, allowing it to overtake you and you living a lifestyle through those things. And not just sex, but lust through even gluttony or greed, living things that are out of proportion of a fruitful and victorious life. The whole incentive is to be holy, to be uncommon. But we would all fail. If any other person or any other tribe were to have been selected to be Israel, it would have failed. Because living by a perfect standard is perfectly impossible. Being holy, not only being uncommon, but being fruitful with actions. They're supposed to be a beacon of light. Okay, you can do it. You can do it righteously. And you can do it righteously because you're tethered, you're attached, you're a part of something bigger than you are that is more righteous than any of us are, no matter how many people are here together. So their incentive with this covenant they eventually received, was to be instructions. Psalms 32:8 says, I will instruct thee and teach thee in the way in which thou shalt go, and I will guide thee with my own eye. With these instructions, it was saying, hey, these are the rules. This is what you don't do. This is what you ought to do. This is how you do it. This is when you do it. This is where you do it. This is everything. And in fact, if you think about it, go all the way back to Genesis, you can see there's a period of time, a large open gaps of time where God just watched the world. Where God just watched the world and let it do what it did. just so he can go back to them and tell you, this is what you're not going to do, because I've seen it. You don't even know the half of it. So now, with all this entire covenant that we're getting, he laid stipulations. He said, I'm going to bless you. I'm going to look out for you. All you really got to do is just stay in a straight line. All you got to really do is just be good. Act like you got some sense. You got a stiff neck. You stiff neck people. It's a gene. It's genetics. Well, when you follow the holy, uncommon path, you get holy and uncommon results. Well, when you follow the common way, you're going to get common results. Fast forward, they're a nation, they're a land now. Here they are after a little bit, being guided directly by God, being judged directly by God, but also being blessed directly by God. Here they are. We want a king. We want a king. But God's like, maybe you shouldn't have a king because that's kind of common. It's pretty common. Make it just like everybody else. But we want a king. All right, God's like, all right, I'll give you a king. They gave him Saul. After a little bit, they didn't like Saul. They got David. They liked David. David was really good. But in that same covenant, this is the point. No matter how high in stature you are and high in position, you are still susceptible to fall. It says, pride cometh before the fall. And it also says, for any man who thinks he stands, take heed lest he fall. For any man who thinks he stands, take heed lest he fall. It's always good to lay low. But the Israelites didn't lay low. They were never satisfied. The thesis of Isaiah states that man broke the covenant with God. And it's not just the breaking of the covenant, it's the bathing in the brokenness of it. It's bathing in the sin of it, in the filth of it, the iniquity, if we will. They broke the covenant with God. And it reiterates Isaiah chapter 24, verse 5. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. So if we jump to chapter 28, and then let's get to 15 right here, verse 15. Because the Lord, ye scornful men, that this people which is in Jerusalem, because ye have said, we have made a covenant with death, and with hell are we at agreement. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, it shall not come unto us, for we have made lies our refuge, and under falsehood have we hid ourselves. We think of scourge, we immediately think punishment, but let's think of judgment. Judgment is a more neutral term. The holy people have made a covenant with death. The righteous people of the earth have made a covenant with death. So if the Jews didn't even get it right, if the Israelites didn't even get it right, then already by default, Jew or Gentile, it doesn't matter. By default, we're already aligned with hell. I spoke to a Muslim girl one time at a coffee shop, and she didn't really like this verse. She said that the life of a human under God, because Muslims believe they worship the same God as we do for the most part, um, that it's just a test. On a layer of it, I think that's correct. I think that's very correct. It's a test. It's not a work, it's a walk. But having a test by God's standards, I will fail immediately. I'll just tell you, I'll fail immediately. Having the most righteous, having the most holy, having the most powerful, having the most instructive, mighty evaluation, I fail. Not that I'm not going to try, but I fail. But you inherit sin. You may do the same sins that your mother, your brother, your father, your sisters, your aunts, your uncles, whoever. You may not have done the same sins with them, but you inherit the effect of it sometimes. Same way on the opposite end. You may be living out a blessing that your ancestors may have prayed over you. Same thing where Abraham was blessed through his bloodline, through his lineage. Even in Isaiah, it says, I'm dealing with y'all. Not even really because I like y'all, because I made a covenant with Abraham, Jacob. They were right by me, so I'm looking out for their kids. So I need y'all to get right because this ain't gonna work because you have made a covenant with death and with hell. You're in agreement. And if we back up to chapter 5 of Isaiah 5:14, it speaks about hell enlarging itself. Therefore, hell has enlarged herself and opened her mouth without measure, and the glory in their multitude and their pomp and their rejoicing shall descend into it. So everybody who's worried about all the lively things, all the celebrations, all the good, all the stature, all the gold, all the clothes, all the materialism, um, y'all up here worried about that. God's worried about the direction of where your soul is going to go directly after you die. He's saying you won't even have a chance. When you tread my courts, you won't even have a chance. Food for thought. Can we even pay God back? I'll answer that in two ways. Let's jump to chapter 40, verse 15 through 17. Oh, this one's good. Okay. Behold, the nations are as a drop of a bucket, and are counted as the small dust of the balance. Behold, he taketh up the isles as a very little thing. And Lebanon is not sufficient to burn, nor the beast thereof sufficient for a burnt offering. All the nations before him are as nothing, and they are counted to him less than nothing in vanity. You couldn't work yourself to God. You can't take you can't take a $20 bill out of God's pocket and give it back to him and say that you're doing him a favor. For two reasons. Well, A, that's stealing and that's counting it as profit, and you're counting it as profit to him. That's something to gain, for him to gain. But also, second, you're creating it filthy. You're making it filthy. Isaiah chapter 54, verse 17. No weapon that is formed against you shall prosper. But we don't ever continue because there's stipulations to it. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn. So, under these conditions, this is the heritage of the servants of the Lord. And they're right. Hold on, let me stop right there. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord. Of the servants of the Lord. That means you got to do what God tells you to do. This is me speaking to myself too. You got to do what God tells you to do. You got to do what God tells you to do. What this is saying, this is the heritage. This is the unfair advantage of people who tend to walk under the ark of safety. That's all it's saying. This is the unfair advantage of the people that walk under the ark of safety of God, the God of glory, the Lord of hosts. And then we finish it off. And their righteousness is of me, said the Lord. This is where it all comes back together. The righteousness that you do hold in your heart, it is not yours. Because your own righteousness, I'm finna 1-2 combo on y'all, get ready. 64 verse 6, but we are all as unclean thing, and all our righteousness are as filthy rags. And we all do fade as a leaf, and our iniquities like the wind have taken us away. So it's not you, whatever good that you do end up mustering out of your heart, whatever you do in this world that is pleasant, that is fruitful, that's victorious, that's righteous, that's holy, it's not even you doing it. It comes from the root of God. And if you feel like, hey, well, I can do good things here and there, well, listen to how you just said that. Listen to how your heart posture is in that. That's combative. That's not righteous, you know. Except that you are tethered to something more dependable than the shifting rhythms of daily life. And use that as your advantage. Don't let that pride get you to feel like, oh, well, I did something. No, you got to get God to glory for everything. You're only 1 or 2 clicks away from it all falling away. You're only 1 or 2 clicks away from ending in a car accident. You're only 1, 2 clicks away from ending in the hospital, to ending in your grave, to ending in jail, to ending in the opposite side of the world. You're only 1 or 2 clicks away. So you got to do what you got to do. You got to be obedient. You got to get God the glory. So I'll conclude that. And then we're going to actually go into who God is. Who did we transgress against? Who do we break the covenant with? Who is God? So, what did we learn? Man broke the covenant with God. Mankind broke the covenant with God. Man, woman, boy, and girl broke the covenant with God. And there's dues to that. There's dues to that. So now, I ask you, are you in good standing with God? And that's not a question that you need to answer. That's a question you need to ask God. Just come clean from within. Come clean from within.